Welcome, man of tomorrow. How are you doing today?
Man, I'm doing good, man, and yourself.
I am doing well. Cleaning up this studio as well as the house. I'm retired. The wife goes to work, so I got the role reversed. So I try to keep the house intact while she gone.
Oh, that's what's up, man.
So we're gonna, as they say, we're gonna get the boring stuff out the way. Tell me about yourself and how you got started on YouTube.
Well, I got started on YouTube at this point, probably like 6 years ago.
Okay.
First came into YouTube through, I'm going to say Angry Man's channel in the first beginning. Then I was a call-in person to Minister Jap show for a little while. And for the Minister Jap show, I went to O'Shea. I was a large contributor over there for a while. And what was this? Obsidian. And then I decided to go my own show and go in my own direction.
Okay.
Because well, there was a good start. It was just like successful men with actual substance had no space within Black America, period. But now I realized they had no space within the Black manosphere, period, as well.
Right. Let's talk about that. You said men with substance had no space.
Yeah, none.
And let's do a deep dive on that. Let's dig into that.
Okay, so you had Manosphere 1.0.
Right.
People who actually risk stuff to actually come out here and talk about these issues.
Okay.
Those came down hard upon by, female content creators and, some of the more militant feminists and the like.
Okay.
Most of those guys went away. They got their platforms taken. So then comes Manosphere 2.0.
Okay.
Manosphere 2.0 is when they brought all the dating coaches in here, the pro-blacks in here, all kinds of other stuff. So when I came in here, I thought this was going to be a place where we talked about the foolishness, but then it was going to be an action phase where we actually talked about moving into doing tangible things. Me, I was in the transportation industry. I do federal contracts with the United States military still. So I thought, okay, we're going to be in this BS for a while. And then we're going to start being on the more substance piece. But you couldn't be on the substance piece because these people came here they came here for nonsensical reasons. They brought all the women back in here. And so they needed tangible people like myself around to make their BS not stink as much, And then once they got to where they got, and then they're just like, look, we're going to keep it on some BS. We're going to talk about the dating and relationship piece. We're going to talk about this, social dynamics of male and female dating relationship, which has gotten probably worse, not better, in the last 6 years. I think we've raised the level of awareness of women that they can just screw men over and really not get any consequences for it.
Right.
But that's what we have done. And now we're at the point now to where this is where we at. So
how do you make that shift, or is that shift even possible to go back to an area where substance, what do you define as substance, and how would you start pivoting to getting men into the substantive things as opposed to surface level conversation?
You can't pivot these men. At this point, you can't pivot these men.
Okay.
Because by the time they get to, somebody like me or you or somebody who has substantive things going on inside their life outside of entertainment, it's already too late. But most of these people came here to hang out.
Right.
And they wanted to hang out with other personnel who also ain't got their stuff together. And they shut out all of these substance because they can't argue from substance. So what they do is, this was just another way of redoing what the Black community have done, was strip the actual substance out of the actual Black community. Now we're done to an online community. The same way that substance came in first and they got easily cleaned out of there by the money interest. The same thing happened in rap music. The same thing happened to the Black church. The same thing happened to everything else. If you don't have strong levers on how this power is used, it's going to be in the hands of people that don't embody the values of the actual intended space. And they're going to be the people who actually be the ones who actually destroy the method of anybody else to get on once they get their place.
I wanna compare that, because you said something that I can kind of relate to. let's compare it to the African Americans. We'll keep it as a black thing. That would you compare that to African Americans that, let's say, rose up into the middle class, and there was a way that they had to rise up in the middle class. Now we even seeing that the middle class blacks, if I use Maryland as a prime example, PG County used to be that middle class upper blacks that came out of the DC area. Now you have I think it's called Charles County, which is now the upper class of even PG County. Would you say that because of this upward mobility of African Americans, they can't go back to, let's say, a lower class of African Americans because that lower class doesn't accept them anymore? Is that basically what you're saying?
Okay. I'll explain exactly what it is, and you tell me how it comports to the example that you just gave. Because I don't know anything about PG County, and I don't know anything about that. All right.
Okay.
What we have is the middle class blacks who left the community.
Right.
These people decided to, rather than play the victimhood role, they decided they were going to take the bull by the horns and actually compete in society. Now, there was a group of people who did not do that. Those are people who stayed in the community.
Okay.
Those are people who stayed. They didn't stay because of some noble act. They stayed because they didn't want to grow. And the community is the only place where you can stay and not grow, and it's fine. So all the people who claim that they're community-minded are all the people who don't have the money to pay for anything. And all the people who they expect to be community-minded are the people who can pay for things. So what you have is you have the stolen valor of people remaining within the black context, not because they give a damn about black people, it's because they don't give a damn about black people, but they leverage their poor circumstances by giving them fake representation to make them feel comfortable in their circumstances, not challenge them to go compete against the rest of the world.
I love a word that you use, and I might title that "Stolen Valor."
Yeah.
Break that down for me.
No, you've seen it. It really happened after 9/11, where you had all these people showing up to military funerals and veteran events with all these medals on and properly displayed, making these unsubstantiated claims that they were part of military units that they never were a part of. And these people would slowly get identified and outed to the general public. And that's what that is. I mean, they want to wear the medals of the struggle and the sacrifice, but they were nowhere to be found when it was time to serve the time in those actual areas, and mostly war zone.
I love that. I can see that, and I can definitely relate to that. So do you think that there needs to be, as a famous movie is now called, The Purge? Does it need to be a purging, or does it need to be an identifying of the stolen valor people, whether it's men or whether it's women or a combination of both?
I think people already know where they stand with the type of content that they ingest every day. They've already separated themselves already. I mean, the fact that we want this so-called community, but you got all these people with community claimers, but there ain't no productive people who's out there trying to give away their money to people that they don't know. At the end of the day, I've never seen a doctor or a lawyer or anybody who have donated a significant amount of time in their life to an actual career field call themselves community minded. They know what the actual sacrifice and the struggle is to go buy a house somewhere else. A community has a minimum level of investment. Like most people, when they talk about community minded, they want to benefit off somebody else's work without putting the work in themselves. That's what that means around here.
That's, boy, you saying a whole lot. I want to dig into that community versus individual. If I use it in political terms, would you consider that more of the conservative mindset that says God, family, country, but the God, family, country is really pick yourself up by the bootstraps and do the work that needs to be done for your God, for yourself, and then it will show within the community? Would you say that would be the key?
Well, you have to understand that manosphere conservatism and black conservatism as it's practiced is not true conservatism. It is. I mean, what they're trying to do is they're trying to conserve bad circumstances so they can make money off of it. That's how come there's no problem solving within this context. That's why entertainment becomes before answers and solutions. So You are correct. It is quite conservative. But all these conservatives do around here is talk about liberal women. So they can't be conservative, as conservative as they think, as you would think. You are right. It is quite conservative, but conservatism has a definition, which everybody forgets about. And they call themselves conservative because they want to save the community. That's not conservatism. That's liberalism. You want to save people who haven't put the time in or the work in. So there actually are liberals claiming that they're conservatives. That's the problem here. They don't even know that they're liberals. That's the problem.
I love that concept. I'm going to use an Al Sharpton quotation. So in other words, we have a lot of latte liberals who think they're doing conservative things, yet they're doing more damage than they're doing good.
Correct. They latte cosplay conservative. Because here's the thing.
Right.
Look at how many live streams in the Manosphere after Stacey Abrams lost. Now look at how many live streams in the Manosphere about Herschel Walker going to a runoff. I thought you wanted conservatives to be elected to public office. How come nobody's not doing any live streams on Herschel Walker? The reason why is he's too embarrassing of a candidate. But it's not just Herschel Walker. It's the people who think that they're part of a movement that they're not a part of. If you really think Herschel Walker is going to do the actual bidding of black people when he gets into office, you're not a conservative.
No,
conservative about having somebody embarrassing like that up there.
I'm going to tell you that's a funny conversation. That's a funny conversation because I am conservative. Matter of fact, I got a book called Conservative but Not Republican, and I was telling my wife would, if you want to call her, probably more on the moderate liberal side, and I said to her, Herschel Walker is an embarrassment to me as a quote conservative Republican. I said, you mean to tell me that the Republicans couldn't find if you gotta go black, you couldn't find a better black candidate than Herschel Walker? I mean, I had to literally call people in Georgia to find out, like, are they serious? Like, is Herschel Walker the best candidate y'all really got? So I don't even see how
you Shelley Winter. Why not use Shelley Winter? Why not use him?
I can't figure out, and I can't figure out how people even voted that close to Herschel Walker.
The 2 million people for that level for him.
A lot of people. If we go there, I haven't did a lot of political stuff, but I do plan to. I analyze the political landscape, as a political scientist. So it means that, we don't really think in terms of red state, blue state, but more of what the electorate is really saying. And I deciphered that the electorate is saying three things. One, I do think this was a referendum on Trump in the sense of what he stood for, because everybody that he backed basically fell. It went to DeSantis. The second thing that I noticed, especially in the real estate market, is that they are deleting slowly but surely single people, meaning the real estate in the sense of the rental market is going up, but it's going up where you have to be a family in order to move in certain communities. And I want to pause right there before I go into the Stacey Abrams. Do you see the same thing, or do you see something different?
Okay, so what we're turning to is a very skilled versus skillless market. It ain't that the people are being priced out. They don't have the skills it takes to buy a home.
Okay.
It's a skill versus skillless market. So for the people who came over here and they did something with themselves, when it came to getting their stuff together, they could be able to afford a home nicely. But the layers to buy a home was pretty much dealt with any career field. As long as you stayed within a certain area, you made a certain amount of money, you was able to purchase a home. That's not the case today. You got to have some real skills in order to purchase a home. You can't put two lower to middle class people together and they can go purchase a home off in some off-brand part of town. You can't do that anymore.
Right.
You cannot do that anymore. So it's like the American dream was pretty much given up by the people who did not want to upskill, when the last American dream applied to everybody who wanted to get a mortgage and stay within a town. Now, you're not going to be able to stay within any town for 30 years. You're not going to get any job and stay there for 30 years. Maybe you'll be there 2 to 5 years, max. Unless you're working for the federal government or the state government. Other than that, you're not going to be anywhere for any extended period of time.
So this is no longer if we want to argue. This is no longer about race. This this is about skill. Is that what you would say?
It's about skill and class. The class was the skills.
Got you. Today, what kind of skills would you say men and women need today in order to constantly move up, or at least stay in the flow of the river of the economy?
I mean, you're going to have to be a programmer of some sort. You're going to have to be in IT or transportation or healthcare or anything else that's blue collar. Anything that's union related. Outside of that, I don't know what you're going to do. I have no idea. Outside of those things, I have no idea.
When it comes to relationships, because I said, the first two, and you kind of knock those out the park. How do you convince African American men and women, I'm going to argue 25 to 35 years old, they're going to have to get it together? Or is the numbers really not the reality on the ground? Meaning, you don't have this large base of skilled African American men. Well, they'll argue you got all these great African American men, 70% is supposedly in the middle class, and the women, I guess, are in the lower class. Men economically do make more than women. But then when you hear it online, it's like 70% of black men is doing good, and the rest of the black community is doing bad in the sense of women. Do you believe those numbers, or is that a skewed data that's being given?
I think the numbers overall are true because most black people live in the South. So what middle class is in the South, probably $30,000 to $40,000 a year.
Okay.
But if you take the South out of it, and you take the people from the South out of it, you'll get a realistic number. That's why I don't buy the numbers, because they're talking about numbers in the area of the United States where it doesn't apply anywhere else. $30,000 to $40,000 may be great in Mississippi, but it's horrific for Colorado or Utah or California. But that's how the numbers break down. So I would look for the numbers in a state by state basis.
Right.
Because a lot gets lost overall when you use overall numbers like that. A lot gets lost in the sauce because of where we're normally are at.
Okay. I made an argument. My son, 24 years old. I'm a grandparent, so I'm happy at that. He did wait till me and his mom got over 50. So, it was cool. But I had a sit down conversation with him, and my conversation was, in your generation, what's the benefits of marriage? And he argues, he's in that lower millennial, old, first generation Gen Z. And he argued he didn't see a benefit for marriage. Or rather, his generation didn't see a benefit of marriage. How would you begin to start talking to the younger millennials, new Gen Zs about marriage and the benefits of marriage? Or is there a benefit?
Well, it's not a benefit among the people you're talking to it as. Well, a lot of people think that the marriage comes from a forced baby type of relationship. Well, they need to put the productivity piece way before even thinking about women.
Okay.
For me, the productivity piece come first. And this is a parental kind of responsibility before you even ask about the marriage situation. Do you have your son or your daughter in a stable working condition to where they're able to function by themselves? This come way before the marriage talk and all that kind of other stuff. Because no matter how single, or even if they end up in a situation that God forbid that they're in, at least they got the productivity piece down, so that way they're not stuck with somebody trying to force something. So for me, I'm culturally married to someone.
Right.
We don't do the state sanction thing.
Right.
But the productivity piece is what comes first, period. But within this context of where we're at, everybody's trying to be an entertainer at the end of their life, and they never concentrated on the most important things about the productivity piece up front. They just didn't do it.
I like something that you said, because I just interviewed, matter of fact, I just put the video out. You said, I'm not state married. which I'm using the word union married, and another young lady, you know her, C Rose, is in the same situation. Give me the benefits of a union marriage versus a state function, a state, what is it, state sponsor or state
Sanction.
sanctioned marriage, because I think people really need to, I think that conversation really needs to come out more about the two differences.
Like, to me, I sit down with the family of the person and we decide what we're going to do within this relationship when it comes to business and finances and whatever. And you sign a contract between two parties, me and the family. This is what's going to happen. If
Right.
things go wrong, this is how things are going to be divided up. State sanctioned marriage, you have to go to the court to get your stuff codified, and then all of a sudden, if you want to be divorced, you have to go back to the same court to actually have the court agree on your settlement. And the court could say, I don't like the way that you divided that up. Go back and do another deal. They can do that. They really can.
Let me ask you this: with union type marriages, based on your experience and your knowledge, would you start recommending union type marriages, all because of what you just said about the division of assets?
Correct. Because in the state sanctioned thing, whether they care or not, it's going to be divided up a certain type of way, and it's not going to be for the man. In a union type situation, it's quite different. But most people are too selfish and don't give a damn. And they like, look, it's either you're going to sign all this stuff away to me, we're not going to do this. Or it could be you sign this type of relationship under duress. That's what it becomes, even with a prenuptial agreement. So
Is that happening a lot, or is that just some of the things that
with Dr. Dre. And with Dr. Dre.
Okay, let's go. I'm gonna take you back. I'm gonna go to Stacey Abrams, and I've been looking at that Stacey Abrams. I've heard all the news stories, but again, I look at things from a political science point of view. Something that I noticed, I will have to admit, I looked at Stacey Abrams, and I recognized three things, and I want to see if I'm going down a rabbit hole or do you see something different. One, I don't see any stories about Stacey Abrams in any form of relationships, whether that's a heterosexual relationship or even, that alphabet community relationship. Two, I never really seen her as a real politician that can reach across the lines. And three, I felt that Stacey Abrams was just purely rejected on the fact that she was not a great candidate. I did not see racism in this argument. I did not see anything, I just couldn't see her as a great candidate. Am I missing something in the Stacey Abrams? Because I believe that Stacey Abrams is a microcosm of a macro issue.
I don't know much about Georgia.
Okay.
And her as a candidate, I know about her voter registration drives that she have. I know about the things that Georgia have done, well, Brian Kemp and the Secretary of State have done to limit voting within the state of Georgia.
Right.
But she's done a lot of organizing outside of that.
Okay.
Organizing people, and that's all I know. I mean, it's just that I encourage her to keep running again and again and again. As long as her voter registration effort is actually registering people to vote, I think it's a good idea to keep running her.
Okay. Excellent. Let's go back to the conservative piece, because let's go into getting people to understand from your perspective the true meaning of conservatism. And if someone wanted to be where you are or have your art, my mindset too, that mindset, because it's never been taught to them, how do we begin to teach the true meaning of conservatism?
Well, you can't teach conservative to these liberal dudes. They're not conservatives. They're liberals. Like everything was fine before Donald Trump came down the escalator. I mean, everything was fine during Hurricane Katrina. You're seeing the response to that. These dudes are not conservatives. You cannot create a conservative out of thin air. These people want to be with liberal women. Period. They want to be in these messed up circumstances with these messed up outcomes. Period. That's where they want to be. That's where the views are at. You cannot turn these people into conservative people. They're not personally responsible. They don't care about tradition. They don't even want to be with traditional women. They want to try traditional women things with women that are clearly not that. You're never going to get these people to be conservatives because they're not conservative. They are cosplay conservatives. They don't want to read. They don't want to know the history of the actual country. They're not good enough for that. They're not these people. No.
Wow. Do you think it's a black thing or is it just an American thing?
It's not even a black thing. It's an individual choice.
Right.
Like most people want to learn about the ins and outs of uncultured women than they do about the political process. Most people want to sit around and laugh and joke more than they want to think about get some actual skills and abilities so that way they can go and have a broader range of women. So you have two things that have happened. You have not productive men who want to be restricted to non-traditional women. We see what the outcomes are. The actual statistics are not lying. You see the level of personnel within this space and the mental health issues that they have, obviously, and the things that they're attracted to within space. And that's what I'm saying, that these things are not going to work. Like I said, more people care about female nature, which is nothing but a host operating system, rather than caring about creating families with traditional women. And most of these dudes in this space created families with women that were just not fit to be mothers. And then they wanted to complain about the actual outcomes of it. Like they went and tried to poach a woman off the carousel and then get mad when she just walked away from it. Or talking about abortion and all these other things that conservative people don't have a problem with. My lady's Muslim. I don't have to have these conversations with a conservative woman. You don't need to have these conversations with a conservative woman at all. I mean, she's set top, turnkey.
Right.
You ain't gotta have these conversations, but they keep coming with this tech support that has come online that is about trying to get somebody to pre-check their women for them, which is pretty lame and pretty stupid. So you have to just lead these people to their devices. They're never going to be conservatives. They don't want to read. They don't even care about the history. They don't care about when the parties flipped. They don't care about any of these things. The only thing they care about is, I want to be with a liberal woman, and the government should be able to save me from the consequences of being with a liberal woman. That's the idea of conservatism. Save me from the consequences of being with this liberal woman. And they center their whole platform around this liberal woman. Not the decent women that they actually want to be with. Oh no, they just want to complain about the woman that they don't want to be with. And somehow the woman that they do want to be with is going to show up after all that. I don't understand how it works, but that's where we're at.
Do you see this offline? Because now I am actually having conversation with people offline. I just haven't produced the content to put it online yet. Are you seeing this offline? And I'll give you a prime example. Before I got with mine, I told a lot of women I did, I wasn't ready for a relationship. We had that agreement. I've got more sex telling women the truth about where I was and where I'm going than sitting up here telling them a lie. That's been comical to me, but I'll even take it one step further. I am sitting here having conversations with people offline, and I'm hearing conversations like, I never heard the six-figure stuff until I came online, but I'm having conversations with women and saying, look, I just want a man that has his own place, his own car, and an income, and they're struggling to find that. I don't know what the reality of that is. Then you have conversations with married women that says their friends are single, but some of these women also have too much of a high expectations. In your experience and in your observation, what do you see out there when you take conversations offline?
See these conversations at all between people. I don't see any of this stuff at all. I see like a couple people know who, KS was. Right. But outside of that, I don't see the woman working at Walmart or Kmart talking about how they want a six-figure dude, regardless of how they look.
Right. I've never heard that. I never heard that either. What about some of the other conversations? Because you see stuff on TikTok, you see stuff on Instagram, and you're seeing stuff on YouTube. Are these really happening offline, or is this just strictly online stuff just seem to be online people versus what's happening offline? My next question would be, I love how this is going. My next question would be, what is your advice for the man and the woman, that couple? Talk to, let's say, I'm gonna use a scenario. Talk to my son and daughter-in-law right now. They're 24, 22, just have a young boy. What would you tell them to start doing now to prepare for tomorrow?
I mean, to me, I'll just focus on the productivity piece early. Like a lot of these skills can be learned way earlier than graduating high school. Way early, far earlier than. But this is a parental guidance thing too.
Right. Oh,
this
trust
is a
me,
parental guidance.
Right.
Like a lot of people don't understand that. Like me, I'm in my 40s.
Okay.
All this kind of stuff was never around. Internet was never around. All these type of things you can get into was never around. Now you can work remote and all this kind of other stuff. That's why you have to go back into these school systems and try to prepare people for job training, prepare people for the skills of tomorrow. Like all this idle time that they have, they're not spending it studying on the stuff that they need to study on, because most of this stuff go from hobby time into real world experience.
Right.
And it's like basic training, you got to be regimented in basic training in order to go to where you need to go. And that's what kids need to be on. A kind of set schedule that is chock full of the productivity piece, so that way they can kind of be where they need to be. And if you look at these other people, these other groups of people, they don't have these problems within the same environment. Asians, Indians, they don't have this problem within the same environment. They watch the same movies, they watch the same TV shows, they watch everything else, but their outcomes are radically different.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Being that you're in the military or been in the military and you've traveled just as much as I have, let's talk about this argument of everybody trying to get a passport and say they're going overseas. What do you think of that argument? Because I don't see a lot of people just picking up and migrating overseas. I don't see it, but if you want to go overseas, enjoy yourself, because I've been there.
Yeah, same here. It's like, it's just a way to refight the war, to be quite honest with you. It's just a way of trying to survive and refight the gender war. It's like you and me traveling. Just picked up and went whenever we wanted to.
Right.
When you go to the airport, there's not a place where you can check this box of humanity. You just pick up and order. You go to the gate, you sit down, when your flight come up, you leave. That's what it is. It's not even that hard.
Right. Because I mean, it costs $100. I don't think you need to set up a course to know how to get a passport and just go. Because I always encourage, I even told my wife, I said, I'm going to take her overseas because I just want her to have that experience of knowing what it's like, knowing how it feels. To go to another country and just be called American, not Black American, not Asian, just be called American, and just see how people actually treat you, and just that feeling of getting away from one type of culture into a whole nother culture. And I'm always trying to encourage people to go overseas for the culture. Don't get on a boat talking about you took a cruise. Get on a plane and actually go submerge yourself in someone else's culture. How would you say your experience when you've been overseas? How was it culturally for you?
Well, I go to Veracruz a lot, like 4 or 5 times a year. And it's nothing but love, man. It's nothing but love. When I go, they know our history better than we know our history.
Yes.
Pretty much so. Yeah.
Yes. I can verify that because when I went, I did a TDY in Bamberg, Germany. And when I went to France, it blew me away how much Black history they knew, and even history that I didn't know when I'm in the country. I had to come back to go verify that they was right.
You know, you could pick up their history books, and they're not lying about the actual history of the country.
Yeah.
They tell the story of what happened. So when they see you, they're like, wow, you came from these circumstances and they did all this stuff to you and you still over here. This is great. I want to talk about these things right here. They know all that stuff. A lot of people don't think it's important, but they know that you came from those things because they read about it.
Right. You know, one of the things that, and again, it wasn't online, I'm coming out of New York. And when you come out of New York, you're coming into one, you know, you literally ain't got to leave New York to see the world, because everybody in the world comes to New York.
Correct.
This is also the first time where I'm hearing a lot of these conflicts of the immigration situation. Everybody arguing how can these immigrants come here, make it successful. I never heard of ADOS and FBA and all this stuff.
You came online. You came online.
Exactly. What do you think about all that? If you don't mind me asking you.
It's a way for non-affiliated people with the current process to make them feel like they're special by claiming a new group of people that don't have a track record, rather than owning up to the fact that you haven't been participating in the process here in the United States and own the responsibility of that. They'll just call them part of some other group. And with the immigrants, there's no immigrant in any city, and I'm from a sanctuary state. You don't want to do those jobs those immigrants are doing. And when people come online and claim that the immigrants are taking all their jobs, I'm like, dude, listen, you're welcome to take your ass over to the Safeway warehouse, and you can go see how those people work. You're welcome to go to all these construction sites where those people don't get paid nothing, and you can see how they work. I can guarantee you can go to all those kitchens on the west side. You could go to the Asian areas over there by the Chinese Man Theater. You can see how immigrants get treated. You can go to the chicken plants, the factories outside the Denver metro area. I guarantee you don't want those jobs. I guarantee you don't want them wages. But for some reason, we come online and we complain about people that we don't know anything about. It's crazy.
Yeah. Do you see that that the online community, especially in this sector, has it done any good, or has it done more damage than it's done good?
I mean, this online community is it's a reference point for reality, but you have to recheck your reality after you listen to this stuff. You have to go into actual real life and actually do things after you have the information. Like, people just want to sit here and listen to answers. They don't want to put the answers into actual use outside of this environment. Because once you put these answers into use outside of this environment, you see how true or false they are. But that's how things work. People come here to live out their whole life online without inside of it. I think that's
Right. In other words, they have not been able to decipher the difference between virtual reality and reality.
Correct. And the longer you stay without actually experiencing it too, that tracks. That's another thing that people understand is just leveraging the fact that you don't know what's going on and that you're coming to them for answers. There's a reason why they're online.
Do you think it is a responsibility of the content creator, say someone like myself or someone like you, to really start doling out the process in order to get that success versus sugarcoating what's going on? Or is it that they don't want the meat, they just want the ice cream?
Yes, they want to show up to every meal with the dessert. I mean, like, most of these people are not ready to try the things that need to be tried to be successful here. I mean, that's not what this space actually gives out for the most part. This is not what the space is for. It was for that, but now it's a place for people to discuss their relationship issues, to be quite frank.
Do you think another space needs to be created?
No, I don't think so. I think people have already made their decisions, and there's channels around for whatever you want to on YouTube. That's a great thing about it. It's just that you can't do it with Black people, because Black people are just not set up for that. They're set up for entertainment, nonsense, foolishness, and the entertainment entertainment conversation. They're not set up for success or cultural conversations and none of that kind of stuff. No, you just have to bring it to a broader audience and have black people come along for the ride. You can't do anything that's strictly black and strictly that. It's never going to be successful.
Got you. How long you been in transportation?
I'm gonna say December 2009. So that's 13. Yeah, probably 13 years. In December 1st, yeah, probably 13 years.
Is that what you did in the Air Force?
Oh no, Air Force.
Oh, okay.
Air Force.
Right. Yeah, my best friend was an MP. He did that. Me and my uncle, being in the Army, we both did field artillery. My uncle was a grunt in the Marines, so yeah, and then my cousin was in the Coast Guard. So everybody in my family, a lot of men in my family, all did military. You know,
yeah.
My daughter married a Navy man. You know, so everybody is a bunch of vets around here. Yeah. Everybody, that is awesome. Well, listen, I want to thank you for this interview. I want to thank you for giving me your time, and I'm quite sure I'll be reaching out again for like a part 2, in these conversations, because I think you gave a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of information, and hopefully people will take some of the fruit of your labor and your success and what you have been able to accomplish and learn to make that shift and learn to make that change.
Yeah, but regardless of what was heard in this interview, all this stuff can be changed with practical action, practical application, practical places to put yourself. Just because I told you the state of things within this space, that doesn't mean that you got to have the same outcomes that these people have here. You can have way better outcomes, way better than mine's far earlier.
Right.
So you don't have to wait all that kind of time to get success out here.